I be tortured again by all this?
Hello, hello, hello. Y'all? Get started in just a second. So just starting off, I'm gonna go with start with SPY just to do the basics. So we had a decent amount of news today, and I feel like they're really I really hope again with this everything that happened from over the weekend. So between like Iran and Israel and things like that. So what I'm looking at is kind of just going over what we kind of started off with and then where we ended up basically. I'm gonna pull up my notes. Yeah, so we pretty much started the morning off. We had some PMI data that came in about like 9:45 this morning, which really didn't affect the market too much. Um, it pretty much came in line. It pretty much came in line or a little bit higher than expected, even with home sales. But it still was nothing too crazy. I would say that you really do probably need to pay attention to for tomorrow is the consumer confidence that comes out. Um, of course, we got the home price index to kind of just give you a better insight of like what the market is looking like. And then after that, we got President Beth Hammock speaking, and this really can start to move the market a little bit leading into the open because it happens like right at 9:15 Eastern time. I don't know if you guys can see that all right or not, but and then that's when around 10 o'clock, Mr. Jerome Powell starts speaking to Congress and just testifying. And whatever he says, that really can kind of move the market we see. But a lot of times, whenever he testifies, or even just like when he speaks in general, we see this time to where the market will react. A lot of times, where it reacts negatively, but it typically bounces back. We've always kind of rebounded from these type of situations. And then Wednesday, when we just have new home sales. Thursday, that's when we start getting to like more data that kind of affects like the inflation, like the outlook on inflation, and that's when we start looking at jobless claims. And this is this weird scenario where um like more unemployment is somewhat good to in the medium term because the people in the market are essentially wanting the Fed to cut rates. But job data has been pretty strong so far. Then we have GDP. That's another thing, kind of like give us an indicator for in a recession or not. This kind of goes along with that whole same thing of like bad data basically is good. Then we have PCE on Friday, which is like one of their favorite indicators for the Fed. So as far as like the major economic news that we'll be looking at this week, and of course, if anything like changes as far as with tensions between Iran or like with us and Israel, that can affect the market as well. So it's just something to pay attention to. But to get into SPY, so today was kind of a crazy day. Um, Mondays always kind of just set the tone for the rest of the week. Tuesdays kind of give you a better idea of the trend of like what's going to go on. And so when we kind of started off today, I trade the strat, and that's where you might see these different colors on here. Maybe this big enough for you guys. I'm going to go down to a 15-minute time frame. So we largely started off pretty much out the gate. We kind of went up a little bit, but we kind of just started rejected and kind of just had like this slow grind of like no real movement starting out in this little area right here. And nothing really occurred until about it was about like 12:30, 12:45, and that's typically when things start to pick up. I feel like largely this move was like inspired by Tesla. Excuse me. And a few other stocks, like I know Microsoft did pretty well, but like yeah, everything just kind of took off from there. And we saw it like go up almost about like 50%. We ended up having this time where we like completely like dropped down, and then but we recovered. Everything was happening with the tax. We had this like little quick drop, but we quickly recovered, and I think that's because people did begin to expect that there was going to be some type of semblance of like uh, peace being made, and so we saw this quick rebound. We actually ended up finishing the day of almost 1%, so it was like 0.99%. So that was pretty straight. What I'm looking at though for the shorter, like medium term, is the fact that we've been hovering in the supply zone for quite some time now. So this goes all the way back to like the 10th of June, and even back here, like just beginning of June. This whole month of June, we pretty much just been in the supply zone. We tried to touch 605 and we got rejected, but right now we're hitting off this what is it, like 223 setup that we basically came off of, like this rebound, this reversal. And so we started to reverse, and now we're up this way. We're about to test. We're already above 601 in the after hours. But I feel like tomorrow's really going to see us test like this 604, 605 level. And that's really going to give you a good indicator about where we're heading to next. So we go right here to this 605 area and we begin to reject. That's when you're going to see us return back to 600 and potentially fall out of the supply zone and just completely start to break down and return to like 590 and below. And if we start doing that, then we'll start to fill some gaps to the downside. But that's just the overall sentiment I am for the short term. I'm just like, I'll say cautiously bullish. I'll say cautiously bullish, somewhat neutral. But as of now, we just really got to just wait and see what's going to happen. But the market seems like it's locking what it's seeing so far. So we're already up at 602 in after hours. So we could end up going past 605. But once we get the biggest thing, once we get past 605 and get to like 610, that's when if we get past 610, that's when you really will start to see things pick up. And that's really towards like the top of the supply zone. It's like once you can start getting past 610, once we can start making all new time highs, all time highs, whatever. So as that, I'm gonna go to another stock I've been really been one of the stocks I've really been looking at a lot. Let me check this one out. Mm, I don't like that one. This one I already got mentioned already. It's Tesla. Tesla. This is one of the ones, man. Just seems like been going through it for a minute now. So Tesla, they actually end up having an event over the weekend. Uh, Elon Musk basically been pushing his robo taxi coming out, and it seems like they did he basically took it live and to let people start using it in Austin over the weekend. So that caused it to have a very nice push. So today we ended up going like over almost like 10%, but we ended up closing the day there like a little over like 8.23%. But Tesla just came out the gate and was just on fire. I got a little bit of the action, but I didn't play Tesla directly. I did TSLL, which is basically like a Tesla leverage stock essentially. I played the options that way, and they basically gave you like a pretty nice return off of that. I think I exited out with about 75, about 80%. And so what I'll be looking at for Tesla right now is like on the week we're bullish. We came out like this double inside week right here. So we had like a two down and we hit like two ones after this. And when you see some consolidation like this, you're just expecting a big like breakout, whether that be to the upside or the downside, but typically to the upside. This is just like think about it's a move and then you just have consolidation, which is like pressure building up in a pot essentially. So I'm gonna go down to the 4 hour time frame. Give us an idea what we're looking at for tomorrow. And I typically use the 4 hour time frame as like my triggers for me getting into another stock. And we actually ended up finishing off on a 2-1 setup. So that's basically another thing. Basically, what I was mentioning before, we had a move, and then this like time of consolidation. And so what I'll be looking for with this, I would like to see a break above the high of this inside move. So I like to see Tesla over just a 354.88. Honestly, I like 355. Like you got to go and break 355. That's been this real strong resistance of psychological resistance right there for Tesla. It'll get triggered at 354, at 354 58, but we need to break above 355 before we have any type of real movement. You can actually see if you get like right here and look in the past, every time we've hit 355, we've obviously had some resistance and we begin to fall back. So this is like an obvious supply zone. I'm actually draw that out. But yeah, Tesla keeps his momentum going. We could easily break past this 355 level. I should take this out. I basically drew this so you guys can get a better idea of the supply zone that we're like playing with right here, where we've hit right here. It's about 3 times, actually 4 times, where we've hit the same supply zone. So we definitely need to continue with the momentum we have. Break above 355. Our next target, of course, is 360, and then after that, 367 ish. And so that'll be my targets with Tesla if we go to the upside. If we do continue to, if we do not show bullish momentum going forward, and we start to break down in the supply zone, and if you just don't know what a supply zone is, just think about it as an area where sellers step in, and vice versa. Like a demand zone is where buyers step in. So a supply zone is basically where people tend to sell the stock at consistently, honestly. So what I'll be looking for if I'm playing to the downside will be the low of this 4 hour trigger, which that actually put us at 346.42. If we begin to break below that, that's when we can start playing to the downside and then target the next low, which would be 327.40. Before we even get to that, though, I definitely look for some type of support at this 330 level. That's a psychological level for Tesla. Oh my god, it's 332 and the 330 level. So yeah, just draw a zone. So you guys can get a better idea of what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's what I'm looking at with Tesla. But if we start to break down below that 330 level, pretty much go just to 325. And then we have a lot of support towards like 318, first 320, 318, and down to 315, which is a really strong support level for it. But that's what I'm looking at with Tesla, but I do expect the upside to continue. and I'm really aiming for this 360 target. So next, I'm gonna go to Apple. Me and Apple got like a love-hate relationship right now with this mess. I don't even fix this. So Apple, hold on a second. So Apple recently has been dropping off of like its recent highs, and it came all the way down to about 170 before bouncing. Which overall it looked somewhat bearish to me, but it's actually forming a base right here, and it's like it's getting ready for a move higher in the short term at least. The thing about Apple though, let me drop my trend lines. Yeah, this is on the weekly time frame. Let me go down to the daily. Let me know if you guys have any questions. So yeah, with Apple, go down to the 4 hours. So we actually finished on an inside day on Apple. It's kind of hard to see. Not like this tight little doji, but with Apple, looks like we're trying to crack above this 200. Let me see. Well, it's 202.38. No, 202.23. So above that on the 4 hour time frame, above 202.23, that's when you can like enter calls. But since we were already in this like this wedge, like this triangle, I would be careful here. So I would need to see a real break above, like really above 203. And usually I would like to enter this if it breaks above and then like to see a retest of this trend line. And then that's why I'll enter in to go long. Let me see if I can map this out for you guys. All right, yeah. We got a little. Oh crap. Mm. All right. This is what I'm seeing with Apple. So the consolidation on this triangle has gotten even tighter. But if you see right here, we've hit into these supply zones. You can see we've kind of wicked off this area as soon as we got into here, and it's around like 205, which is actually lines up with the psychological level for Apple. So right now we're about to start touching the top of this triangle, like this trend line, and what I'll be looking for is the breakout of this. But I'm cautious around this, like up to 205, because I want to see it go to 205. We could completely break out of this and go crazy. I don't necessarily expect that, but at the same time, I trade what I see. And since I do have a historical trend of this going to 205 in this area and rejecting, I'll look for that, and it'll test down on this trend line. If it holds support at this trend line and starts to build up right here, that's showing confirmation of this breakout actually. So we go down here, test this trend line, and that's when I'll start to enter long to go back up. And usually I'll probably do this on like a 15-minute time frame. The further out time frame that you see this happen on, the more powerful that trend move is happening. So if you see on like the 4 hour time frame, that's even better. So that's how I would play this with Apple. And some of my targets with Apple is easy. Apple pretty much moves in like $5 increments relatively. So this is like a line will be about like 210 before you get your like your next level of resistance. It'll be about 210 and then like 215. Well, then we got 212. But after that, we actually have some gaps to fill to the upside. Yeah, so we actually have a gap between 209 to 210, which that's a pretty small gap. But the biggest gap for Apple is when we start getting above this area. I'm gonna use my triangle just to kind of like show you guys. Not my triangle, these rectangles. I'm show you like this fair value gap. This actually starts. Mm, This actually begins to start around like 208. And if you don't know what I'm like pulling this from, I'm looking at uh, all the way down to this candle that gap down to, and like from the low of this candle that started the gap. And so with Apple, yeah, this actually could end up breaking out pretty nicely. But yeah, definitely watch for that move to 205 and see what happens there. That's going to give you a really good indicator of what's going on. So we move to 205 and we start to like, we of course start to reverse. Then we got to start looking at what's happening at 202, at this 202, $200 level. If we can hold that and begin back up, that's when I'll go long and I'll start targeting all the way up. If you have time, I would target 220, honestly. If you can put some time on this. But in the short term, past 205 is easy to go like 207, 210, 212, 215. And those are pretty easy targets for Apple. But if we do break down inside, and especially start to crack that $200 level, that 202 level, you can easily target like 190. It's like 195, 196 roughly. That's an area that we tend to return to. Yeah, about right here. I'm gonna show you guys. You kind of can see it here. We got onto like this 195, even down to 190. Right here, it got to this like 195 area, and before we wick off, that's usually where Apple see you see demand step in for Apple. And right here as well, 194. Right here, we're actually right on top of this. Actually hit like right on top of this demand zone. In the longer term on Apple, I'm very cautious with Apple, just because the thing about Apple, for a long time, you've been able to trust Apple and the type of returns it's going to provide, and we've seen that happen time and time again with Tim Cook. He's been a good CEO, but lately there has not been any innovation from Apple whatsoever, and it's catching up to them. Like they are so lucky that what's that Chinese phone called? The company is called Hawaii or whatever. They're extremely lucky that they cannot sell their phones over here in America because Apple has not innovated whatsoever. Like when's the last time you thought to yourself like, oh, let me go get this iPhone. I have to have it. This is something super new. It's been a long time. Then on the monthly, we actually look a little bit better. Let's see. We're still holding like, of course, still holding uptrend. I'm just cautious on Apple, just because of like the innovation has like not been there, and there's been seeming like there's been some like internal struggle on like what direction we're gonna take Apple, and so honestly, like we're starting to see this uptrend, and of course, like until we see a break in structure, that's when I like want to go short on that. So if we like start breaking down below like this monthly of like 195 and breaking down below that, I'm still bullish. Like the trend is still very much in track on intact. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. But just saying, long term, if Apple doesn't do anything by like 2026, like by middle of 2026, I'm gonna sell my stock with them because then it's just like you're really letting like all your competitors outdo you so bad. They said they're gonna get into the health space. That's been super slow. They've been talking about having like the blood pressure cuff, I mean, off the Apple Watch and all these different things, and none of that has actually happened. You've had people block you along the way. They're late to catching up to the AI race, and then they come out with Apple Intelligence, which is like super lackluster. And can you really tell me what Apple Intelligence does other than light up your phone at some random ass time? Like no one is using that. But yeah, enough about my Apple rant. We actually have two inside months, and if we close off June, like within on this inside month, we can really be set up for a nice move going into July. Like the bullishness continues, or we like break out that way, and that usually can be a target for like 215, 220, 225. I mean, and then let me see what the next high is. Even 240. We actually can end up going through this channel pretty nicely. Here, I'm gonna draw something. There we go. This kind of just showing you the path that Apple's been in for like a little while. This is gonna be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect, just so you guys can get an idea. Mm. This actually lines up with Apple against about like 295 with this pathway. You go like 295 or 300 really. I think I should go 300. I like that psychological level. But yeah, this actually. Let me see what the contract's looking like for Apple. Like, if you have some time, this could play out really well. Let me see how long this takes. An easy way you can really tell how long you can expect for like a stock to move up in that direction. And I'm only doing this if we like break up to the upside starting in July. So if Apple goes long, I mean, we like break to the upside above like what the high, if we break above 206.24, that's when we'll start triggering like this move up on the longer time frame. Let me see. Just pull up the option chain. Oh, dang, I forgot I deleted that. I'm just gonna ask my assistant. If you guys don't know, I actually built an AI assistant for my trading. I'm not selling anything to you guys. It's free actually. It's on my Discord. But I built an AI system for trading that's like tracks basically uh, like I want to see like all like types of option flow, news, and everything kind of all together. So I did it just kind of make it faster for me to trade. And then also I added like a behavioral analysis part to it yesterday, to where I actually like kind of like keep track of me and make sure I don't overtrade. I feel like it just I don't know. When you get like so caught up sometimes trading, you might feel like you want to revenge trade. Sometimes you need somebody to just tell you to chill out. So I like build my assistant to kind of do that. So I'm gonna ask you like the will be some interesting contracts for Apple. I call it Coach Next. If you guys want to like see it or try it out, just hit that link in my bio and then go to my Discord and I can send it to you guys. I'm still working on it, so it's still in beta. Mm, Let me see. I feel like something that's been heating up has been like these September 19th contracts. Check out those. Let's see. They're actually pretty cheap. Yeah, let me see something. How many months did this take to get here? This is like December. Let's say one, two, three, four, five. Okay. This is roughly taking around like 6-ish months. I'm gonna give myself some more time though. I'm gonna do this one. Okay. So I would have to do something towards the end of the year. Yeah, if you can go down to let me see, November. And basically what I'm doing now, guys, if you're trying to find contracts, if you like don't know like crap about what contracts to look for, honestly, you can do this. You can go like let me show you guys. You have like Webull or whatever, right? Go down, like check out here. You have it to where you have all these different expirations. That's basically how long the contract lasts, right? And what I do is obviously, of course, there's certain contracts that are more popular than others. So, like for recently, we had one with just the June 20th one. The next one, I know that September 19th is a popular one. And where it says, of course, you know more about the Greeks, but if you see like open interest, and it shows you how many people actually have these contracts. And so you see on this is like puts are right here, which is like bearish, and then calls right here, which is bullish. But if you see right here how many people are buying or holding these contracts, that gives you a good idea of like where people are placing their money at. So the more people you see holding these contracts, give you a better sentiment of where the larger amount of money is going. And so even down here in September 19th, there's actually a lot of puts going into that. But I'm not too scared about that just because of the fact of I know typically between like July, like that summertime going into August, the market tends to kind of pull back and get a little wonky, and then we tend to finish off the rest of like the fall is pretty bullish. But this I've looked at. Here we go. Looks like December 19th looks pretty good. Yeah, see, look at this. The December 19th $300 contract has 27,000 people holding it. And you can just see a lot more people are buying calls on the side. Like you have 24,000, 7,000 versus like over here, we only have like this put around $250. but it's completely outweighed like 24,000, you know, calls. And so when you have like a better idea of like what's happening here, you see we get further down the puts, you see it picks up more. But if you see that it's like slanted completely to one side, you can kind of get a better idea if people are like long term bullish or bearish. You also get an idea of like what time frame people are looking at. So I like this. So it was a $300 call and the 250 call for December 19th of this year. They're actually pretty cheap. They're both less than $100. And the further you go into the strike, of course, the safer it's gonna be. And what I mean by the strike, that means like the closer you kind of go to what the current price is of the stock, it makes it safer. It's like you placing a bet. Let me show you guys again. Hold on. It's like you placing a bet. So right now, Apple is at 201.50 or whatever. And you see as we move closer, of course, the contracts are getting more expensive. So right now it's like 1600 or 1605 for if you do a 205 strike. But the further you go out, the cheaper it is. But for calls, I mean, and for puts, the closer you go to what the price actually is, it's actually a safer bet because it's more likely to move in your favor. Like it doesn't take as large of a move for you to make profit. So yeah, but I only would enter that, like I was saying, above 206. And if you really just want to be safe, wait till it gets above 210. But really, if it goes above 206 and we start to show momentum, I would enter in long on Apple. I like the December 19th expiration. And I honestly would do 250 as my strike. I would do 250, 220 as my strike, and even the 300 or the 270. Like if you just want to be safe, that's ultimate price target is 295. And then I would depend on what broker you have. I mean, almost every broker has this, but you can have a way you can go. You can actually do like a profit calculator. You can kind of get an estimate of what happened if the stock goes to that price. Um, I'll actually show you guys real quick here. So it's like I went to Robinhood. Let's say we did like the 220 call, right? It's 940, which really means it's like $940 because it's times 100. I'm added to my watch list, and you kind of see what that price is, and then simulate my return, and there kind of you slide the scale. And so we're planning for Apple to go to 295, but let's choose our smaller target real quick. So on the short term, easy target is like 215. And basically, if you don't know how to find your targets with this, is you basically go to the previous high if you're planning to the upside. So let's say we break above this high right here, which is 206 or whatever, we're targeting 215, or like this previous high right here, this candle. And then above that, we're targeting the previous high of this candle. And I also, this is on the monthly, so I would definitely advise you to go. Well, I'm not financial advisor, but I definitely look at the smaller time frames too, even down to like the 30-minute or 15-minute, because you'll get a better idea of like what price you'll go to within that shorter time frame. So it says it's S&P 500. No, this is Apple that we're looking at right now. But let's say, so that contract we're talking about, if it goes to 215, and let's say this happens by August 2nd, right? It shows you how like a 42% return. And we're saying we're expecting this to happen over like 6 months or so. Sorry, I'm like slurring. Let's see about then. Let's say we actually get to our 295 target. I'll show you guys how much that'll be worth. Look, this contract would do 727%, and like in real world money, that's basically like 6,700, which that is a great return. But like I would say, I would definitely buy time on this. Like, so you could go further out, even into like next year. That'd be good. But that'd be like a super home run. I definitely hit like the smaller targets first, like take profit along the way. But I definitely like this. I have this on my watch. But that contract, that's basically like you put up $1,000 and you make $7 or $6,000 back. That's not too bad. I'm gonna go all the way out here to a $300 call. Just see what that return will look like. Which is this is way out the money, so it's like super less likely that it actually will like be in the money. So here, the 202. Let's say this happens around like November. And this is the thing about having like completely out the money calls. They don't move that well. I mean, they can move well, but they don't like. You have to have a larger move for it to make money for real. Oh crap! I passed it. Yeah. So if we do get to 295 by the end of this year, you make like almost like $1,000, like 950, like 2,635%. It's a great return. That's if we that's if we get that high though. This definitely still can pay pretty well. So what I would do with something like this is I like to establish like my main position. So I will probably go closer to the strike of like 220 because that's something easy, right? And this is assuming that this is moving up whatever in the right direction. I'll go 220, make my main money off of that, and then I'll use like those really cheap ones, like those 300s or even like the 270 calls. I'll just kind of add those on lightly. So it's like I make my main money, and then if it runs crazy, I still can bank heavily, but at the same time, I wouldn't like be butt hurt if it doesn't, because I have my safe play. It's all about risk management. You want to play it safe first. Get the easy win. Get the easy win. So I'm gonna take it down here. This guy can look at like some shorter term targets. So we already said like 210, 215, and then another short term target for Apple is around like 230, 230, 235, and 240. Like I was saying, it pretty much moves in like these $5 increments. So that's it for Apple. Another one. Let's see. Do y'all have a stock y'all want me to look at to go over and check out AMD? Don't be scared to ask questions now. All right, yeah. So AMD kind of has a similar situation. It's not exactly the same, but they're like basically running off this. They're basically in this channel as well. And they're like going up to the upside. It's crazy. I drew this chart a little while ago, and this is holding up pretty well. You see, we bounced off this support area. It actually broke a little below it, but this is why I say that zones are a little more important than just you having like a set price line for like your supply and demand, because it really was like a supply zone we hit right here. I mean a demand zone, sorry. Here. You can see all the way back here where we're just consolidating. Every time we touch the bottom of this demand zone, price kind of bounce back up. Same thing. Got to this area, price moved pretty quickly. So you see this is where buyers are stepping in. And this is about like 80 to $95, $97. And so right now, and I played this a lot last week. If you guys are like in my Discord or even just follow me on here, I talked about AMD. So we're at 130. So AMD, why we're looking for it now, since it did just reach this next level, I really need to see it break past 130. I actually struggled there a little bit last week. If we go down to like the weekly time frame, or like, let me go down to the daily. We got to this area to 130, and we just kind of been rejecting. You guys see that? So we started to show some weakness here. You see, we started to kind of wick off. This actually was like a two down wick off. Even though it's kind of floating up, but it's really showing some bearish signs here. So if we don't break 130 soon, we're gonna see this usually return to like 125 or like 123. So I'll be looking for AMD on the short term. But overall, I'm still bullish AMD. I just need to see it pick up some steam. And all it takes is like just really some good news because this thing can rip. Um, so after that, we do continue to play to the upside. If you have time, target like 145, 150. Yeah, around like 163, 165 is where we kind of had a lot of resistance at before. And then so on, we get to the top of this channel, it's really about like 300. It's not like the same thing with Apple. But like I was saying, you need some time for this to play out. Let's see, because this is all the way back to November 22.